She trusted her sister with her life, but not with her husband. Lavra and Hannah were sisters who were close since childhood. Lavra, the older one, had always been protective, while Hannah looked up to her like a hero. They grew up in a small town, shared secrets, clothes, and dreams. Wherever Lavra went, Hannah followed with a smile. Their bond was strong. Lavra helped Hannah with school, taught her how to ride a bike, and even dried her tears during her first heartbreak. They used to whisper late into the night about weddings, love, and a future where they'd always be side by side. Lavra got married first, to Daniel, a kind man who worked in marketing. He was gentle, polite, and loved Lavra deeply. Hannah was thrilled. She danced at their wedding and told Lavra, "He's perfect for you." Lavra smiled, hugged her sister tightly, and said, "He's our family now." Time moved on. Lavra and Daniel built a happy home, and Hannah stayed over often. She helped with decorating, babysitting their young son, and even cooked dinner some weekends. Lavra trusted Hannah with everything, her child, her home, and her life. But something began to change. Something quiet, something Lavra couldn't explain. A feeling she didn't want to believe. And it all started with a look she wasn't supposed to see. It was a Sunday afternoon when Lavra noticed it. She was in the kitchen, carrying drinks, when she saw Daniel and Hannah sitting too close on the couch. Daniel said something, and Hannah laughed. But not just a normal laugh. It was shy, almost flirtatious. Lavra paused, just for a second. Then she shook her head. "Don't be silly," she whispered to herself. "They're just comfortable with each other." But over the next few weeks, more signs began to appear. Hannah always showed up unexpectedly. Daniel started dressing better, even on normal days at home. Once, Lavra found Hannah's bracelet in their bedroom drawer. She asked, "Did you leave this here?" Hannah smiled nervously. "Oh, maybe I don't remember." Lavra didn't want to believe what her heart feared. She trusted them both, she loved them both. But at night, when Daniel turned away in bed and Hannah's texts arrived with hearts and jokes, Lavra felt something cold grow in her chest. One evening, Daniel said he was going to work late. Lavra nodded, but something in her told her not to believe him. She didn't know why, until she saw Hannah's purse in the hallway just an hour later. She didn't say anything, not yet. Lavra started paying attention. She didn't want to, but she had to. She noticed how Daniel always smiled more when Hannah was around. She saw how Hannah wore makeup when visiting, even just for a quick stop. She watched them too closely, and each time, her heart cracked a little more. One rainy evening, Lavra was home alone. Hannah had said she wouldn't come by. Daniel had gone out to meet a client. Lavra made tea and went into Daniel's home office to grab a charger. While opening his drawer, a small envelope fell to the ground. Inside were printed photos, blurry, low quality, but enough to see clearly. Daniel and Hannah, sitting at a restaurant, holding hands, hugging in a car, smiling the way lovers do. Laura's hands trembled. She dropped the photos, stepped back, and leaned against the wall. Her breath grew short. Her worst fear had a face now. Not just a suspicion, but truth, cold and sharp. She cried silently, her hand over her mouth. The betrayal wasn't just Daniel's, it was Hannah's too. The girl she raised, loved, and trusted had broken her completely. Lavra didn't know what to do, but she knew this, she wouldn't stay silent. Lavra waited for the perfect moment. A week later, she invited both Hannah and Daniel for dinner. She cooked their favorite dishes, set the table beautifully, and acted completely normal. They laughed, unaware of the storm coming. Halfway through the meal, Lavra stood up. "I have something for you," she said. She placed 2 envelopes on the table, one for Daniel, one for Hannah. Inside were copies of the photos. As they opened them, silence filled the room. Daniel's face turned pale. Hannah's hands started shaking. Lavra didn't yell. She looked directly into their eyes and said, "You both lied to me. In my house. Behind my back." Hannah stood up. "Lavra, it's not what it looks like." But Lavra stopped her. "It's exactly what it looks like. Don't insult me with more lies." Daniel tried to speak, but Lavra raised her hand. "I gave you everything. I trusted you both. And now, you've lost me forever." Tears streamed down Hannah's face. Daniel lowered his head in shame. But Lavra, she stood tall, heartbroken, but not broken. The next morning, Lavra packed Daniel's bags. He left without a word. Hannah tried calling, texting, even knocking on the door, but Lavra never answered. She focused on her son, her work, and her healing. For weeks, the pain was unbearable. Some nights she couldn't sleep. Some mornings she couldn't get out of bed. But slowly, with time, she began to breathe again. Lavra joined a women's support group. She met others who had faced betrayal, heartbreak, and loss. Their stories gave her strength. She began painting again, something she hadn't done in years. She realized that forgiving didn't mean forgetting. And moving on didn't mean the past never happened. It just meant she was choosing herself. And in choosing herself, she found peace. A peace that neither Daniel nor Hannah could ever give her. 1 year later, Lavra stood in front of her house, smiling as her son played in the yard. Her world had changed, but she had changed more. She wasn't the quiet, trusting woman from before. She was wiser, stronger, and finally free. Hannah sent one last letter. It was filled with regret, begging for forgiveness. Lavra read it, folded it, and placed it in a box of memories she would never open again. Daniel tried to reach out too. He said he missed their son. Lavra allowed visits, but never allowed his presence back into her heart. She had rebuilt her life, not from anger, but from clarity. She bought new furniture, painted the walls, and filled the house with music and laughter again. Because in the end, she had loved deeply and had been betrayed deeply. But she rose, not with revenge, but with power. And she finally learned. Some people don't deserve a second chance, but every woman deserves her own freedom.